the Fury Warrior got a massive buff because Blizzard hates shamans in Pandaria Classic. Not only your auto attacks are gonna hit for harder, you're gonna be enraged for longer, and that actually is a lot of damage in Fury. So this is how you play a Fury Warrior now with the new balance. Your talents are super cookie cutter, there is not a lot of variance, double time, double charges, pretty much you take this in every warrior spec every single time. Enrage, regeneration, because all the other two talents are worthless, it is just a nice defensive cooldown. Disrupting Shout is an AoE interrupt and it is also ranged, so you can interrupt a lot more reliably without targeting, it is a lot easier. In some fights you may wanna take Piercing Howl for an AoE slow, that is rare. Then we're gonna go for Blade Storm because it does stupid damage. That's it. Do you need any other explanation? We are also gonna take Vigilance because it is a 30% damage reduction on the tank. You get a free Priest Bubble on you for the tank. The warrior is really useful to a raid regardless of the damage. This is a big cooldown. And we're also gonna take Stormbolt. It does a lot of damage. Once again, you wanna pop it on cooldown, it does a ton of damage. Bloodbath is actually better for AoE, so if you're gonna go onto an AoE heavy fight, this could work, but Stormbolt, that's the one we're gonna take. Now for the glyphs. The main glyph we're gonna take is Unending Rage. It is 20 more rage on your maximum rage, so your rage can go all the way to 120, and that makes everything easier. You can stack rage before a fight, you can stack rage on the chill parts of the fight, so you can then burn them on like the execute phase or like in a phase where you get a DPS raise or whatever it is. It makes your class a lot easier to play, and of course it is harder to get rage capped, which makes it easier to play. Then the other glyph, which I would consider pretty much mandatory, is Death from Above. Just like Arms, Heroic Clip does a lot of damage, reducing the cooldown will give you more Heroic Clips. It is also free mobility. Heroic Clip is awesome, and I would say it is pretty much mandatory. And the last glyph, this is the one where you got some sort of agency in your life. You have some sort of choice as a grown man that you are at living your life. You got two choices. You can go for Enrage Speed. This is the one I recommend. 20% movement speed when you enrage, when you pop your cooldowns. Now, this is not entirely necessary, because if you memorize the fight, if you are experienced, if you are pretty much on the groove of things, maybe you have been farming the raid for a while and you know every fight and you know where to go, so there is very few losses of time, you have a very good uptime. In that case, for parsing reasons, we can go for Raging Wind. It is 10% more damage on Whirlwind after we pop Raging Blow. It is not a huge deal, it is not gonna change your life, it is not gonna give you a lot of damage, but it will give you some damage. And if you're having an excellent uptime, if you are consistently not having trouble moving, if you're consistently doing the mechanics right, this could be a good option to take. I recommend you take Enrage Speed every time, especially if you're new, especially if you don't know the fights yet. You can wait until later for Raging Wind, it is not a big deal. If you lose even 2% uptime just because you move slower, that may very well be more damage than you would gain from the other glyph. Now for the minor glyphs, there is only one glyph that is useful, and that is actually more than most classes, and that's gonna be the glyph of Intimidating Shout. When you pop Intimidating Shout, everything runs away, right? With this glyph, they just stay in place feared. And that's great, because when you're doing a trash pull, for example, you can fear the mobs and they are not gonna run away, they are not gonna pull other mobs, they are not gonna mess up the pull, they are not gonna scatter, but you are still able to keep some of the mobs feared. You can get them to stop casting, for example, you can just get them to not do damage, even if it is like 1 or 2 seconds that you get off fear in some mobs. It is a good cooldown to have. Also in ad phases, because you got Heroic Leap. A lot of the time you're the first person that gets to the ads when they spawn in a phase, and if you're that guy, you might die if you are too early on it, but you can just Heroic Leap and AoE Shout, like AoE fear them, and they stay in place, so nobody's mad at you, but you are alive. So I would say Intimidating Shout is also pretty much mandatory. There is not a lot of scenarios where you actually want the mobs to run away from you. That is not something that happens. Now, your stat priority is complicated. I say always it is very simple. Not in this case, it is actually complicated. That's because of hit, okay? You get a normal hit cap of 7.5%, we know that, but there is a new type of dual wield penalty in Pandaria that is not like the one in other expansions from before. Basically 7.5 is just gonna be the hit cap for your yellow hit, your abilities. But your white auto attacks, both the main hander and your off-hander, it is both now, they still have a hit cap of 26.5%. Now, you do not wanna go for that hit cap until like later tiers. It is not that good as that, but it is a thing and you always get value from hit, so keep that in mind. It is never wasted. Auto attacks are not a huge part of your damage anymore, but they give you range and that's good. But anyway, it's gonna be your hit cap first, 7.5%, and after that we're gonna go for the expertise cap, which is also 7.5%, and that's a hard cap. You just take it and you're done. After that we're gonna go for crit. When we crit with our abilities, we get enrage, and when we enrage, we get more damage. So crit is awesome. After that is gonna come mastery, because we get more damage when we crit because of the mastery. Just like I said before, this is your mastery. When you enrage, you do extra percent damage. The more mastery, the more percent you get. So mastery is actually amazing. And it does synergize off each other, right? So mastery is gonna come after crit. After that is gonna come haste, which is not very good for a warrior. We got no haste cap that we gotta follow. There is some haste cap for some obscure dot or something out there. It doesn't matter, okay? All you get is you hit a little faster. That is not something you care about. And I would say about in the same level is hit, for the same reason, because what does haste really do for you? The same thing that hit will do for you after the hit cap. More auto attack damage. That's pretty much it, right? So maybe haste is a little better than more hit, but I think it's pretty much the same. Functionally speaking, I would not take either one of those. I would reforce into something else every single time if I could. If you get a piece that has haste and hit, it is probably not very good for you. You should probably pass it to somebody else. Of course, your base stat is gonna be strength. Strength is gonna be in every piece of gear you take. You cannot reforce into strength because that's a primary stat, but we are gonna take some gems that have strength on them. That's pretty much it. That's all you gotta know. Your rotation as Fury is what I call ass. Your rotation is a lot more complex than arms, and that's why I am not happy at all that Fury is probably gonna be the meta for the first tier. It is not a great thing to have, but I am gonna try my best to explain to you the rotation. Just like the arms warrior, Colossus Smash is the main engine between our damage. It lets us just go through armor, so we do like full true damage on the boss. So of course that means that we wanna play around Colossus Smash. Some rules of thumb that you wanna keep in mind, because it is really hard to keep everything at the same time and execute it right. You wanna pop Colossus Smash when you are enraged, because you get extra damage from your enrage, and Colossus Smash is gonna let you go through armor, so that's where you get the most value. Every time you enrage, you get a charge of Raging Blow. You can get up to 2 charges, and every time you do Raging Blow, you lose 1 charge. And that also means that you do not want to do Raging Blow outside of Colossus Smash, because that's a waste of value. And that's why it's great that we got 120 rage from our glyph, because we wanna stack rage when we do not have Colossus Smash on the target, so we can then dump it on the target and do a lot of boom boom. So number one in the priority is gonna be Colossus Smash. If we do not have an enrage, we're gonna force an enrage with Berserker Rage. You wanna have enrage on Colossus Smash. And now it will actually last longer. That's one of the changes we got right here. The duration of Berserker Rage and enrage have been raised to 8 seconds. There you go. So it is a lot easier now. That's more damage. That's gonna translate into more damage. So we do Colossus Smash and we dump all our Raging Blows. If we have 2, we do 2. If we got 1, we do 1. Doesn't matter. You just dump him. After that is gonna come Bloodthirst, and after that is gonna be Wild Strike. We are gonna do Wild Strike every time we get a Blood Source proc. I am gonna put a Wikora in the Discord that tells you when you get a Blood Source proc, and after that is gonna be Stormbolt. You wanna do it when you got Colossus Smash on the target, don't forget. After that we're gonna do Heroic Throw, and after that we're gonna be doing Wild Strike. But if you are still in Colossus Smash for whatever reason, you shouldn't be at this point. If you popped everything, you shouldn't. Maybe you are missing a charge of Raging Blow or whatever. You can actually do Heroic Strike instead. Heroic Strike does a lot more damage if you can do it. It is just very rage inefficient, but you can make a good argument that if you got Colossus Smash on the target, even if it is less rage efficient, it is still more efficient overall, because otherwise doing rage efficient attacks outside of Colossus Smash is going to be less damage. You are going to have to balance it out between Wild Strikes and Heroic Strike. the more crit and hit and haste you have, the more rage you're gonna have, and the more you can play with Heroic Strike. You are not gonna do Heroic Strike too much, but if you can get a Heroic Strike on Colossus Smash, you are gonna get good damage. Now for AoE, we can do Colossus Smash, and then we can do Heroic Leap. If we can spare a Heroic Leap, it actually does a lot of that damage, and it is AoE damage. More often than not, you're gonna try to leap into a group of mobs, so you're gonna burn Heroic Leap early, but if you can do it after Colossus Smash, that's even more damage. So Colossus Smash, Heroic Leap. After that, we're gonna do Whirlwind. It is not a great ability in Pandaria anymore. It doesn't do that much damage, but what it will do, it will give us mid-cleaver stacks. Our next Raging Blow is gonna cleave, and if we get 3 stacks, that's gonna cleave to 3 more targets. You feel me? So yes, we wanna do Whirlwind every single time we can, just so we can do Raging Blow after that. So Raging Blow is gonna be next in the priority, and then we can do just Blade Storm. But if you think the mobs are gonna die too soon, and you do not get a proper setup with Whirlwind and then Raging Blow, you can just do Blade Storm off the rip, and that's perfectly great. Blade Storm does a lot of damage. It is also a very good opener, and if you're fighting more than 6 mobs, definitely go for Blade Storm first. After that is gonna come Wild Strikes. If we get a proc, we wanna blow it, and if we are rage capping, we can always cleave. Cleave is nowhere near as good as it is for arms, but it is still a decent rage dump, so if you're capping, you can do it. The execute rotation is also kind of annoying. The rotation priority is gonna be Colossus Smash, of course, Raging Blow, Bloodthirst, Execute, and Heroic Strike. But if you are not in Colossus Smash, you should be doing your normal rotation and wait for Colossus Smash so you can do the execute rotation again. Just like I was talking about, you wanna save up rage for when you get Colossus Smash, and then you wanna execute, then you wanna dump it. But if you are not in Colossus Smash, which lasts 6 seconds, and you are waiting for the cooldown, it is always better to just do your normal rotation until you can do Colossus Smash and execute again. Now you only got 2 DPS cooldowns of note. One of them is Recklessness, 30% crit. You wanna dump it when you pop your trinkets, or when you get Heroism or Bloodlust. That's when you wanna really pop it, and you should ideally time it with your Colossus Smash, obviously. And then you got Shattering Throw. Now Shattering Throw doesn't stack with Colossus Smash. It reduces the armor of the boss. So that means you wanna do it when you do not have Colossus Smash, obviously, but also it will reduce armor for the entire raid. So you also wanna drop it when you get Heroism or Bloodlust. It is a 5-minute cooldown, so you are probably only gonna use it once in a fight. Dump it on Heroism or Bloodlust, and that's pretty much it. Before or after your Colossus Smash comes up. Your red gem is gonna be the Inscribe Vermilion Onyx for crit and strength. There are some expertise variants if you need expertise. Your yellow gem is gonna be the Smooth Sun Radiance because it is a lot of crit, and your blue gem is gonna be the Piercing Wild Jade, just like the Arms Warrior. Your food is gonna be the Black Pepper Ribs and Shrimp, 300 strength off the bat, and your flask, of course, just like any other warrior, is gonna be the Flask of Winter's Bite for 1000 strength. Your potion, and you can pre-pot in Pandaria as well, is gonna be the Potion of Mogu Power. It is a bunch of strength for 25 seconds. Ideally, you wanna pop it when you do your execute phase, or when you get Bloodlust. That's when. Overall, the Fury Warrior is gonna be very strong. It is a serious contender now for a top 10, even top 5 DPS in Mogus and Bolts. AoE is still not their strength, their burst damage is also not great, but they will pump, and in the hands of an experienced player, of somebody that pays attention into the raids and knows how to do the mechanics quickly to keep a good uptime, the kind of people that do not need the training wheels that is the Enraged Speed Glyph, Fury Warrior will pump. But do I recommend the Fury Warrior for a new player? I would say no. If you can help it, if you have a choice, play Arms. It is simpler, it is still excellent, the AoE is better, the burst damage is better, and those two things in an unorganized raid, or a, let's be honest, a not very good raid, those two things are gonna be way more valuable than flat single target DPS. But that doesn't mean that the Fury Warrior is bad, quite the contrary, it will be pretty strong. The extra enraged window is gonna give you a lot of flat damage, but then again, will you be able to perfectly play with both enraged and Colossus Smash the entire time? I couldn't, I got no shame, I couldn't. That's why I would go Arms. It's easier. I don't have to think about any of that, you know? We're gonna put a bunch of macros and weak auras in the Discord for warriors in general. For every class as well, we are doing a guide on every spec. Subscribe, join the Discord, and thank you for watching.